Okay, so I believe I'm recording now. So welcome to this evening's session, Creating a Mindset for Action, Why Done is Better Than Perfect. And it's not this evening for some, because I know that Dominican Republic is about 4 or 5 hours behind. So good afternoon for you. So welcome to today's session, Why Done is Better Than Perfect. Now, I've done similar sessions on this before, and it's really my take on my experiences for myself and with the people I work with. So that's where these comes from. And obviously I've been a coach for many years. And before that, I managed big teams in large organizations. So this is my perspective around perfection, my professional perspective and my personal perspective. So who am I? My name is Rosemary Wilson. I am one of the consuls for Internations. I am the consul of London Inspired Women's Group, one of the consuls, and also for the Londoners of all nations. It always gets me every time I say that. But everyone from around the globe is welcome to that group. It's not just for people living in London. And obviously the London Inspired Women's Group is for women. So I am I'm a speaker. I speak on international stages, obviously not so much now in person, but online, which is wonderful. I can do it from the comfort of my own home. I am a coach, so I am a certified coach. I've spent many years training as a coach, and I also practice continuous professional development. I'm a mentor. I mentor in different spaces. I mentor students at university, and I also mentor school age children around about between 14 and 16. I am a workshop facilitator. I do that for large organizations, or not large organizations, for organizations who are committed to investing in their staff. And I'm also an author. My first book will be out in November, I'm told, after it's been reviewed. So I predominantly work with career-focused women to help them develop their self-confidence in order to help them to take action so they can thrive in what they do in their work environment, or take the next step in their career. So that is my predominant focus in my one-to-one work. I also work with organizations who are committed to investing in their staff, investing in their talent, while supporting a culture of diversity and inclusion, which is very, very important to me. If you're on LinkedIn, catch me there. You can use that QR code. If you've got your phone on you, just take a snap and that will take you to my profile. If you're on Instagram, I am at Pragmatica Coaching. And if you're on Twitter, I'm at Pragmatica Coach. So today's session, I'm going to be covering the ideology of perfection. What does that look like? What do we think about when we think about perfection? I'm going to be talking about the link between perfection and judgment, why we wait until something's perfect before we deliver it, let's say. I'm going to be talking about the fear game. So fear, how does that impart or impact perfection? And I'm going to talk about the emotive fulfillment of done, when you've done something, when you've completed something, the joy you get from patting yourself on the back, from saying, I've done it, even though it was difficult and challenging. And for those of you writing your books, you will get this as well. Once you start writing those chapters, once you start seeing that flow, you will actually get that emotive fulfillment of, even though it's difficult, I'm done. And then lastly, I'm going to ask you, what are you waiting for? What's holding you back? So what's the first question I want to ask? And I do need to get to the poll. So this is, I've seen that Internations now has polls. Now I have to come out of the full screen to do that. So who has something on a list that you're not doing because you're waiting for the right time, the right place, the right circumstance, the right event, the right thing? What is it? You've got your thing, it's in your head. What's going on for you? Okay, Bev can't hear anything, so okay. All right, so who has something? And hopefully at the end, towards the end, you'll share that thing with me. I have to put my glasses on because I can't always see. So I'm going to go back to my screen share, my full sketch screen share, which is a bit unusual. Yeah, there we go. I think you could probably still see that. Okay, so I don't know if I can share the results of this poll. So 100% of you, so all of you here, or all of you who've answered, have said you have something on your list that you're not doing because you're waiting for something. You're waiting for the perfect time, place, momentum, whatever it is that you're working for. So I'm just going to end that poll now. Thank you very much for, oh, I can share the results with you there. Okay, hopefully you can see the results. I haven't done that on intonations before. So let's go through this. This is quite wonderful. I've never had 100% of people say that, but usually it's a high percentage of someone waiting for something, that thing, whatever it is. Now, the ideology behind perfection is that we have to wait for the right time. We want the right job, you know, or we want a perfect job, or the right job, the perfect partner. We don't love because, oh, he or she is not right for me. They're not right for me. We wait until I'm going to lose a bit more weight before I go to the gym, these types of things. So we wait instead of doing. We wait for the right environment, you know, the right environment in our home. We wait to declutter. It's not the right time. It's not the perfect time. There's all these things, and each of us will have our own description of why we're not going to do something, or reason why we're not going to do something. And that just actually holds us back. And, you know, my thoughts are, you know, there's never going to be the right time per se, that you can create the right time by actually taking action, by taking action, by moving, and then you'll see how the kind of the cards fall around you. And then you use the results, and then you take another piece of action, then you do something else. But waiting until everything's perfect and all your ducks are in a row is, for me, is a waste of time. Now, I spent many years wanting to have my own business, and for me it was never the right time. And in the end, I just said, well, it's never going to be the right time because I have an amazing career. I'm earning wonderful income. You know, giving that up is going to be hard at any time. So I just took the leap. I started, I studied, and I moved, and I shifted. And it's not been easy, it's not been difficult, and it has not been perfect, but I'm doing it, and I would not look back. I've made incredible mistakes, and I've had the most amazing opportunities as well. All of these I probably wouldn't have if I'd stayed where I am. So perfection is you know, it's non-existent. There's no such thing as the right time or the right situation. Even when you're writing as well, sometimes we wait, we write, and then we check, and we're like, oh, it's not good enough, I'm not going to send it, oh, I'm not good. Then you spend a few more days, a few more hours, a few more years, whatever, not sending your stuff out. But, you know, write it, deliver it, get the feedback, go again. You know, just do something, take some action is what I've learned in my own time. Now, the reason we often wait, so those of you answered that you're waiting for something, you're not doing it because you're waiting for something, is often because we're kind of behind that fear zone. And that's not true for everything, but the vast majority of the time, certainly with the people I work with, the reason they haven't taken that step, that action step, is because they're fearful. They're fearful of something. And fear brings you unresourceful thoughts. So thoughts that are not helpful. You get into this zone, you get into the worry about the fear of the unknown, the fear that I'm not in control, the fear that this outcome is not in my control. I can't predict it. I don't know how it's going to land. Fear of failure. You know, what if I fail? Oh, that immobilizes people. Fear of judgment. And this is a big one. If you put your stuff out there, you put yourself out there, people are going to judge you. People aren't going to like you. People are going to say things about you, but they are anyway. They're saying things about you anyway, whether you hear it or not. And most of the time, when you're thinking about what people are thinking or saying about you, you're not going to get it right anyway, because they might be saying wonderful things about you. They might be saying, God, she's great, or God, he's brilliant. He's doing what I want to do. That's amazing. He's inspiring. She's inspiring. So it's not all bad. So don't forget that that judgment can be incredibly positive. Now, I know in this light of social media and keyboard warriors, you know, someone's always going to have something to say. You know, they send their stuff and then they hide behind the keyboard. They hide behind the fact that they can't see you. So that's always going to happen. So unless you're going to crawl under a rock and stay there for the next 80 years, you're going to have to get used to being out there and being in the public eye, especially on the internet. So when it comes to perfection and the link to judgment, we are all fearful of being judged. But do you want to allow that to hold you back? Do you want the fear of someone else judging you? And they could be a klutz. They could be someone who's not even worthy of your attention in terms of their feedback. Most of the time they will give you feedback which doesn't even warrant listening to. It might be, I don't like your slides. What am I supposed to do with that? You know, so you've got to put some perspective and some common sense on these things and start taking action around the judgment, past the judgment, if that's what's holding you back, because judgment is quite often something that we fear that holds us back. And these are the types of judgment questions that we get, or we get in our head. What will they say? What will they think? Will they like it? What if they don't think it's good enough or good? And this they, who knows? This is they. These are people out there who we don't know, people we know. Some of them might be a family and friends. And quite often, if they are judging you, they might be saying, yeah, great, but they might also be jealous of you. So do you want to hang your coat on people who are judging you with no cause to judge you? You know, do you want your life held back by people who are going to judge you, and you're going to hold your life back because you think they're not approving of what you're doing? You know, I always say that the gung-ho people are those who are, they don't live, they're not fearless in that they don't have fear, they don't experience fear, but they take action regardless of whatever it is they're worried about or whatever it is they fear. They are the, courageous, brave, action takers, doers, whatever you want to call them. They're the people that really take action. They don't think about what other people are saying. Like I said, do you want to spend the next 80 years of your life, or whatever it is you've got, to thinking about, I should have done this, I should have done that, I could have done this, I would have done this, what if I did this? Because you didn't do it because you worried about it not being perfect or what other people were saying or judging you on. And when we get into this perfection place, worried about whether it's perfect, or sometimes you're even procrastinating. You spend so much time putting the slides together. Oh, that one's a little bit out of line. Oh, let me put that neater. Nobody cares, like, really. They just want you to deliver good, powerful statements and good, powerful material. It doesn't matter if you spell something incorrectly or whatever. I've been on these webinars, and I've looked at my slides, even though I always review my slides because that is my nature. I like to do things attention to detail, and not perfection, but attention to detail, using the spell check. The amount of times I've sat here and seen, oh my goodness, it's wrong, but there's nothing I can do, and I just move on, literally a second, and I move on. So we get into these overthinking process. So it's quite important to recognize when you get into that overthinking process, and recognize that it doesn't serve you. We can worry about that judgment, and we judge ourselves as well. If we don't think it's good enough, we are sometimes our worst critics. If we don't think it's good enough, then we think that others won't think it's good enough. And sometimes we've got our bar set so high, our standards can be so high of what perfect looks like. You're never going to be satisfied. It's never going to be good enough. So you just won't put yourself out there. So sometimes you just got to do and go. Just do it and jump. Close your eyes and jump. Just get through it rather than waiting for that perfection. Because otherwise you get into this analysis paralysis, analysis and decision paralysis. So you can't even make your own decisions. You're kind of relying on, oh, I wonder what such and so would do, or let me go and have a look at what someone else wrote on this. Let me see if my ideas live up to whatever the world is doing. And sometimes you've got to take that gamble to be different as well. You know, I see people being the same now, scared to be different, scared to put their kind of their head out and look a little bit different. Everyone is doing the same thing, you know. What happened to individuality and personalities and characters? So be bold, be different. Don't get into that analysis and decision paralysis by, you know, not making decisions because you're worried about how things look and how perfect they aren't. You know, sometimes also the overthinking, it stops you arriving at a decision, and you end up arriving at an unknown outcome in your head. So you start thinking, because this is not perfect, X is going to happen, or it's going to be disastrous, or I won't get the job. Or we start creating these pictures, or these not pictures, but incidents in our head. They're unknown outcome. If I take action A, B will happen. If I take action A, Z will happen. We have no idea. We hope that we know the outcome, but sometimes we just don't know. And sometimes we've got to be okay with that. You know, take the decision, take the action, arrive at the conclusion, you know, put your stuff out there, even though it's not perfect, and then see what happens, and then decide what you're going to do based on the known outcome after you've taken the action. Because this analysis paralysis and overthinking, it stops you taking action, and it all stems from fear. It's the fear zone. And you know, most of the time, and I'll get to that in a second, most of the time the things we worry about never ever happen. I forget who says the phrase or where it comes from. I'm an old man or an old woman, and I've had many problems, most of which have never happened. I love that. And that is something that stems me to take action, because I know that the things I worry about literally never going to happen. You know, something else might happen, but the thing I'm worrying about won't happen. So don't stop taking action because you're fearful. Don't stop taking action because you're overthinking, because you won't know the outcome until you take action. We spend something like 1 to 3 hours per day. I couldn't get a definitive number on it. There were lots of, there was like, I don't know, it was like 84% of our time we spend worrying, and then there was 1 to 3 hours, and then there were 4 hours. So there's lots of different, but we spend a huge amount of time worrying about things, worrying about, you know, judgment, failure, outcomes. We spend 1 to 3 hours per day worrying and comparing to what other people do. You know, someone else has got this job and they moved through the ranks much quicker than I do. Someone else started their business and they're so far ahead. They seem to be so far ahead than I am. You know, these are the things that whirl around our head. And again, it stops us from taking action, and we wait until everything must be perfect. So I'd love to hear, for those of you who said you've got something that you haven't done yet or you're waiting for, I'd love to hear what that thing is, if you are willing to share it with me. I'll put it in the chat box, and then I'll come back to it later just to ask you, once we've got the Q&A going, just to ask you what is going on for you, what's stopping you from taking action, etc. And see if we can get you to shift a little bit in your perspective, because sometimes that's all you need, just that little perspective. So for those of you who said there's something that you want to do but you're waiting, just pop in what it is that you want to do. Just 1 or 2 words. Don't give me a whole book because I have to read it. Just 1 or 2 words, and I'll read it in a little while, just to see what's going on. Then I'll ask you about it during the Q&A. So if there is something that you aren't doing, the not doing and the overthinking and the worrying, it immobilizes you. It stops you taking action. I said just now, even the overthinking, the decision paralysis, so stops you making a decision. And then in the absence of a decision, you won't take any action because you won't know what to do. So not doing immobilizes you with fear. So if you're waiting for perfect, or you're hanging on to it must be perfect, it immobilizes you. It stops you taking action. And then there's no growth, there's no development, there's no doing, there's no tick, I've done it. Whew, let's move on to the next one. Now, there's no greater feeling than being really super worried about something, doing it, and then thinking, oh my goodness, what on earth was I worried about? That happens to me all the time. I literally spend at least if I'm asked to do something new, I spend a little bit of time. Oh, can I do that? And the fact that I've asked the question, can I do that, means it's good, because it means it's challenging, it's wonderful. It means it's growth for me. So I spend a little bit of time going, ooh, I've never done that before. Ooh, what if they say? And I'm like, no, come on, crack on. You've done this before. This has happened multiple times, and you always arrive. You always do something. So I take action even with the fear behind me. I remember a guy said to me on one of these calls, he said, you wouldn't understand this because you're fearless. And I just said, I'm not fearless. I sometimes experience doubts or fear, but I just don't allow it to stop me or hold me back, because I know that at the end of my days, I don't want to look back and say, didn't do X, Y, and Z because I was fearful. So use that as motive for you to start taking action. Because when you're fearful, you just spiral in unresourceful thoughts. When you are worried about something, you have this kind of cycle of worry and fretful, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work. They're going to judge me. I'm going to be a failure. It's going to go all wrong. It's going to be horribly wrong. And we just get into this spiral of unresourceful thoughts. So when you have fear, generally you don't look for, well, what can I do? What is in my control? What steps can I take? You just generally spiral into unresourceful thoughts, and they just follow each other when you're fearful. And you get into that cycle. You believe your own thoughts, and you answer your own questions. You answer your own worries with your own worries. You just answer what you think is correct and what's right. And we all know that there's different perspectives. You want to be in the right frame of mind to look for those perspectives and look for answers and look for resources. But if you're being fearful and you're being unresourceful, you're not going to find answers and resources to support you when it comes to taking action, especially when it comes to taking action around the perfect moment or perfection. You become a little bit stagnant. So 91% of what we worry about never happens. Again, I've done quite a bit of research on this, and it falls somewhere between 82 to 99%. So I've punted for the middle bit. Now, 91% of what we worry over never happens. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, something else might happen that you would not have predicted, but the thing you're worrying about will probably never happen. So, I mean, there are times when people worry about losing their job, and they do lose their job, but they get another job. So some people worried about, I don't know, getting corona, and they got corona, but they were fine. Now, again, I'm not, corona is serious. I'm not making light of corona. So, but I'm just talking about what we worry about in that context. So 91% of what we worry about never happens. Something else might happen, but then you'll deal with that once it happens, because that will be known. So you always somehow manage to find the resources to go through it. I always say we always manage with the resources we have or you're able to obtain. So when something else happens that you weren't worried about, you figure out what to do, you figure out the response and what you need to do. But your daily habits to have those resources, to create those mind resources that lead to action, your daily habits are super, super important. So how you coach your mind, how you nurture your mind, how you look after your mind on a daily habit are really important. So if you are someone who gets stuck in a rut, going over the same thing daily, I can't do it, I don't know what to do, haven't got the resources, I'm not confident enough, I'm not strong enough, that's what you're going to continue to get. But if you're someone who practices, I'm a little bit worried about this, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm convinced I have the resources, or I can find the resources, or I can speak to someone to help me with this, I can speak to a friend, a family member, my boss, my manager, a psychotherapist, a counselor, a coach, a mentor. They will help me to find the resources that I need. That is a more resourceful approach than that daily process of I'm fearful, I can't do, I don't know what to do. So that's really, really important as well. Your daily habits and how you think and live each day, how you nurture your mind, is really important for you to take action. We're talking about progress. So the title of the session was Why Done is Better Than Perfect. So if you're sitting there waiting for perfect to happen before you take that move, what else can you do? A big mindset change can really, the difference between, like, literally, I can spend 30 minutes with someone and they'll come to me being unresourceful. They'll be worried about, oh, I can't do this, I don't know how to do this. And they've got themselves stuck in this pattern. And within less than 30 minutes, I will have asked them a few questions, just simple questions, not told them to do anything, not given them the resources, just ask them a few questions that put them into a more resourceful state of mind for them to then leave me and take action, leave me and take incremental improvements, small changes, small steps towards what they want. And they do it with or without the fear. When you are more resourceful in your mindset, quite often the fear does dissipate. It does relax a little bit. It just backs off because you're now feeling more empowered, stronger. So that, just with some simple tweaks of the mind, you will be able to be more resourceful. And even coming on these sessions with me, I lay my sessions out in a very practical way, to the point that by the end of this session, you'd be going, what was I worried about in the first instance? Some of you anyway. But if not, then, that's also okay. Maybe you need to arrive in your own time. But you take action with or without the fear. And action equals an outcome. And then you decide what you're going to do based on that outcome. But you enjoy the process regardless. Because it's a learning process. Or you might be a little bit like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. Yay. But enjoying the process is also quite wonderful, and getting into that habit of enjoying the process is quite powerful. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm just reading some of the comments. I have to put my glasses on. All right, wonderful. Thank you. I'll read through those in a second. Let me do that. What does yeah. I was just reading. Sorry for those listening on the recording. I was just reading some of the comments. So what I want you to do right now, for those of you who are waiting for whatever, what would it mean for you? I want you to imagine, what would it mean for you if none of your fears were present? What would that do for you? So whatever you're worried about, whatever you feel stopped by, whatever is holding you back, imagine, what would your life be like? What would your environment be like? What would your work be like? What would your accomplishments be like? What would your achievements be like? What would you be able to say? How powerful would that be? Imagine, what would it mean for you if none of your fears were present? Just think about that for a second, maybe write it down, share it with me. I want to hear from you. That would be great. I'll come back and have a check in the box. So what would it mean for you if none of your fears were present? None of what you worried about, none of what you are thinking, oh, it's not perfect, it's not good enough, it's not the right time, Corona's not the right time to write a book. Alexandra will tell you that's very not true. He's created his own opportunity. So is Ali. Ali's writing a book. She's studying to do something different, completely different, encouraged and empowered by the sessions during this time. Is nearly coming up to this 19-20 months. So you'd be less stressed, right? And what would that get for you? Less stress. What then would you do with that time if you were less stressed? What else would you do? You probably create new worries. Always got to have something to worry about on the to-do list. Yeah. So you'd be more productive, right? So doing more things, you'd be more productive. So if we just find that slot of finding a way through the fears, you know, finding a way. So you're imagining what it would be like, and imagining all those powerful things. That's, you know, finding something else to worry about is quite good. At least you've knocked something off your to-do list. But imagine that. Imagine not worrying about something and just getting it done because you're not fearful, or you're not worrying. So here's where you start moving out of your perfection, your worry zone. You know, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be the right time. It's got to be written in the right way. It's got to be the right platform. It's got to be the right person. I can't do the video because I don't have the equipment. You know, start small. Perform one task, one thing that sends signals to you of completion. Just one thing. Move out of that worry zone. And you know, if you need someone to help you or hold your hand, then ask someone. I've been ruling the world. I love it. I'm just reading some of the comments. Just find someone to walk with you on that one task, whatever you're fearful of. Find one person that will help you. You know, either pay them to do it, or get in a group. You know, lots of free groups around, you know, groups on Facebook, Instagram, or everywhere, social media. Just start small and perform. What's that one small task you can do to get you out of that zone of procrastination? It's got to be perfect, all of those things. And focus on the fulfillment of doing. Focus on the fulfillment of what it would feel like taking action. So for those of you who are going to conquer the world, or be more productive, or be less stressed, or add some more worries, think about the fulfillment of ticking that thing off your list. Oh my goodness, I've done it. Focus on the taking action. Focus on that emotion of completion, completing the task. Focus on that rather than on the fear, to help you move you out of the worry zone. And if you need a hand holding, get in touch with me. I can help you, I'm sure. Focus on that emotive fulfillment, the contribution it brings to your fulfillment and satisfaction. So I think it was Nora that said she'd feel less stressed. So you'd feel a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. You'd feel calm. You wouldn't feel so worried and stressed in your head. Remember, stress is in your head. Because if I ask you to bring me stress, you won't be able to do that. So focus on the emotive joy and fulfillment of doing that task, and what that joy that it will bring. So rather than focusing on it's not the right time, I will be judged, or the unknown outcome that you've created in your head. Remember, it won't be the outcome that you've created because you're making it up. It's your imagination. Imagine using that imagination for something more powerful and more resourceful. What could you do? What could you be? Who would you be? What would you achieve if you took that step, moved away from procrastinating and waiting for perfection? So what for you who want to do something that's holding you back, you know, what are you afraid of when it comes to taking action? What is it that you're afraid of? What is this thing that you're afraid of? Is it real, tangible, or is it imaginary? Is it in your mind? Is it in your head? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of yourself? Are you afraid of the power you might create? I don't know. That could be quite overwhelming. A fear of success. Is it fear of failure? What are you afraid of when it comes to taking action? What is holding you back right now? Tell me now. What is holding you back while you're not taking action, quote unquote, for getting things done, or getting the thing done that you spoke to me about, or you thought about when I asked you the first question about who here has something they're not doing. I asked you that very first question. So what are you afraid of when it comes to taking action on your thing, your personal thing, whether it's the thing that you shared with me or something else? What are you afraid of? What will happen? Is it tangible, or is it, fear of success? I think at times, yeah. Someone's, can I ask whoever has unmuted themselves to mute, please? Just in case it gets a bit raucous and wild. Fear that the efforts will be useless, but how will you know until you do it? Fear of success, fear of success. It could be bigger than me. It could be overwhelming. What if it, what if I can't manage it? Fear of being alone. Yeah. Independence, fear of independence. That's an interesting one. Yeah. So standing out on your own, being independent, being on your own. So that these are all quite. I'm just going to mute you, Gracie. So yeah, some interesting ones there, and I'll be interesting to, if you don't mind, if you share some more with me towards the end of when I open up for the Q&A. So I know this is hard because that's why you haven't done it yet, but think about getting comfortable with taking some form of action, even if it's not perfect. Get comfortable with taking that first small step of whatever it is you're worried about. So the fear of independence, fear of being on your own. What is that? Just one small thing that you could do that is, a little bit uncomfortable, but if you did it, it would take you towards the thing that you want. So how can you get comfortable with taking some form of imperfect action? What can you do to take some form of imperfect action? Because done over perfect wins every time. Ticking it off your list, getting it done, having the ability to add more things to your worry list. That's a wonderful feeling, because then you're in control of your to-do list. Well, I'm going to worry about this today. It's my choice, isn't it? Because I chucked the other thing that I was worrying about. I got rid of that. I know you're joking, but or maybe not, but that's how I'm going to approach it, with a sense of humor. The things that we worry about, I've already given you the figures. 91%, 84%, 82%, 99%, they don't exist. So what's the first step that you can do? What's the first step you can do to take action? And I'm not going to ask you this. What's currently your biggest challenge around perfection? Because I think you've answered that previously with your independence, but and independence, and around the other round of being alone, and fear of success, etc. So what's your biggest challenge? Write it down for yourself and just look at that when you leave this session. What can you do? How? Because when you write it down, it really shifts something for you. So just get a notepad, a piece of paper, and just write it down. What's currently your biggest challenge around perfection? And look at your environment. Who is around you? Who is supportive? Who is encouraging you? Are you doing all of this on your own? Because sometimes just having someone there to support you who's objective can really make a difference. So looking at who's in your home, who's supporting you in your home, or what about your work, your friends, your family? Do you need an external guide of some sort? Do you need a coach? Do you need a mentor? Do you need someone who will help you just take that first step, just to hold your hand so you don't feel so fearful? So for any of you who actually want to take a step forward and you are ready, committed mentally, is there one thing you want to do but need support to take action? If you want to have a call with me, or you want to discuss it some more, or just 30 minutes with me might make all the difference to you. Get in touch, and that's my email address. You can take a snapshot of that. Other than that, we are going to open up for Q&A in a second. I'll just leave that up for a moment. So please feel free to unmute. I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can get to the Q&A, and you can let me know what's going on for you. Oops, sorry.